vacation Steph is a whole different animal than
True.
work Steph. You're a blast on vacation. Except for whenever I'm not the one.
Unless you want to get somewhere fast, and I'm like, no, let's go on an adventure.
And I want to know what the next turn looks like in 416 miles.
Like, trust me and the map. We'll be fine.
Yeah. Hey everybody, welcome to the Not There Yet podcast. Whether this is your first time joining us or if you've been a listener for a while, hope you enjoyed today's conversation. It is definitely one that we have enjoyed recording for you. Here we go. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Not There Yet podcast. I'm Phillip.
I'm Stephanie.
And we have got a doozy for you today.
A doozy?
A doozy. This is like our first or second one? Second one in our series of marriage.
Oh, this is episode number 5.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's our second one in a row that we're doing on marriage. I think we're going to do one more after this, but we'll kind of tease that one out in a minute. But
okay.
Anyway, so today we're going to be talking about fighting for friendship in marriage. Because marriage is not a one-person show. Shouldn't be. Some people try and conduct it that way. But we're going to talk about fighting for friendship in marriage. And it's fun to have that conversation with somebody who I'm married to that's also my best friend.
Aw, that's sweet.
Yeah, so we've been married for 20 years.
We have.
We have 3 children.
We do.
Allegedly. And so this topic matters to us because we are coming up on, we have one kid who's moved out.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other 2 are still in high school, but not for much longer, hopefully. Hopefully we won't have to do high school for a lot longer.
I want them to stay in high school for the appropriate amount of time. How about that?
Right. But it's good to have a conversation about what life is going to be like after we're empty nesting or when we begin empty nesting before grandkids and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what today is about, because what happens after the kids move out and you're no longer having to answer somebody knocking your door or saying dad or saying mom.
Oh, knocking on our bedroom door.
Yes.
I thought you meant the front door, and I was like, I think
No.
people will still knock on our door.
Well, they will.
Okay.
And they'll put their little business cards, even though we have a no soliciting sign.
Yeah, what does that even mean?
I don't know.
Nobody knows.
So the question that I want to start out with is like...
Wait a minute. So we should say that you've planned this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm coming in blind. We said we would do this last time because it was flip-flopped.
Yeah.
So you just said, are you ready to record? And I said, sure. So this is all that I know.
It's going to be very organic. I read off the lead ideas of the different segments that we're going to talk about.
You did. And I don't remember them.
And I did that kind of on purpose because you hit me with a bunch of stuff that I wasn't ready for either. So.
All right. Well,
Are you ready?
I am as ready as I will ever be. Let's
all right.
go.
So those of you who are married or planning to get married or might want to get married one day, what if your marriage stopped feeling like hard work and started feeling like friendship, either again or stayed feeling like friendship or began feeling like friendship again?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the crux of the thing. Like we were talking one day, and we don't want to rush our kids growing up and getting out of the house, but we're not like, oh my goodness, I don't know who this person is that I share a room and a bed with.
Right.
We know each other, like, because we are friends. Yeah,
it's not like we're having to start over or get to know each other all over again.
Yeah, and we've heard kind words from folks around us, whether family or not, who said, you guys actually seem like you like each other. And I'm like, yeah, we do.
Hey, we do.
And I agree with that because we do like
most
each
of
other.
the time.
There's always love. Sometimes there's not a lot of like, but
I always like you, even if I don't like what you're doing.
Yeah,
is that fair? That feels fair.
It's not the person, it's the nonsense or the shenanigans that are going on. Yeah. So, but today we're going to talk about what it looks like to fight for that friendship in marriage, because it's something that you build. It's not something that it just happens by accident.
I like that. Fight for friendship.
Yeah.
Because it is. Yeah. You can fight in a way that takes away from that, or you can fight in a way that's working towards that. Yeah. And I like the positive framing of that. Yeah, and it's day in and day out. It doesn't just happen. Like if you don't do anything to fight for your marriage or fight for the friendship in your marriage, it's just gonna be, and then you become roommates. It's weird and uncomfortable. That's what I hear. So, yeah, I mean that's the same. So the first thing I want to talk about is defining friendship in marriage. So I want to ask you.
a couple of questions.
All right, let's go.
Here's the first one. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
What does friendship and marriage mean to you?
What
Stephanie
does it mean to me?
Yes. What does friendship and marriage mean to you?
It's a very broad question that could contain a ton of answers. Do you care which direction I go with this?
No.
Is there a right or wrong answer?
I don't think so.
Okay, great.
It's all subjective to your opinion.
Okay. I mean, I think friendship and marriage means that I, enjoy spending time with you,
mm-hmm.
that our marriage has not been reduced to we work, we eat dinner, we take care of kids, we go to bed, we start over, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That there are actually moments in our day and our week where friendship is a key part of our relationship.
Yeah.
We enjoy hanging out.
Yeah.
We have conversations that are authentic or real and not just about the schedule for the week.
Mm-hmm.
And not just about our kids, but about our hopes and our dreams and our plans, that we truly know one another
mm-hmm.
and have the elements of friendship present.
Okay. I like that.
Okay.
I think it's a great answer.
Oh, thanks.
So yeah, that's that. I mean, that kind of summarizes what I say. Summarizes. That's a much more detailed version of what I would have done. I would have said 4 words.
What were your 4 words?
I mean, it's really going to be friendship and marriage means that we can tolerate being with each other.
Tolerate,
and we know we know who each other are. Sorry, but you know what I'm saying. Maybe not tolerate. We enjoy one another's company.
Okay.
Sorry. Sometimes you have to tolerate the stuff that I do.
But I don't think friendship is tolerating.
Sometimes it is tolerating. You tolerate the fact that I snore.
Yeah, but I don't think that's how I would define friendship and marriage. Is that I tolerate you? That doesn't feel good. Right. That feels like, I tolerate you.
Well, you overlook some of the flaws. That's what I'm saying. In friendships, you overlook some of the nonsense that goes on. That's all I'm saying.
I gotcha.
So, yeah.
Love covers a multitude of wrongs.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
That sounds biblical or something.
So. Yeah. Okay.
So the next one is, all right, this is a combo question for you and me both, but I want to ask you first.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you first realize we weren't just in love, but we're actually best friends? Because that didn't happen on day one.
No, and I wouldn't say I was in love on day one either. Day one? You mean or day one, when we first had a conversation?
Day one of marriage, August 13th,
Oh, day
2005.
one of marriage. Okay, I was in love. Correct.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know if there was ever a specific point in time that I could point to and say that was the point when I realized we were friends.
Really?
Or even best friends. I'm thinking back to different points in our marriage.
Yeah.
And I think a few years in, we became more vulnerable with one another in our conversations and more transparent in a way that made that friendship side of our marriage blossom and grow at a more rapid rate.
Okay.
And that, I mean, our kids were little, so it looked very different than it does now.
Yeah.
And we hadn't walked through some of the things that we've walked through since then. So again, that shapes and forms us and grows and changes our relationship and friendship. But I think there was a key point. We were walking through something kind of difficult in our marriage, and there was a lot of transparency and vulnerability required to navigate that well.
Yeah.
And I think if I were to pinpoint a time, it would be then, because it was no longer, we couldn't get away with surface level conversations anymore. Because it would have meant that our marriage could have deteriorated if we would have allowed that to happen.
Yeah. Because we couldn't be somebody different.
Yeah.
In that space.
Yeah. There were some hard topics we had to talk through.
Yeah.
And those required transparency and vulnerability. And I think that would be the point at which I would look back on and say that was crucial for our friendship.
Yeah. I maybe I would interject, because I think I would say the same. But I think in that moment we didn't realize that this is us forging that deep friendship. It was having to walk through some really difficult things that we just had to come face to face with. But the outcome of that certainly laid the groundwork. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would agree with you on that. And I think that's, I would have pointed kind of the same, I think the same space.
Okay. Cool.
So I'm going to cop out and go that Great. So the next one on this is how has that friendship evolved over the years? How has it changed?
Mm-hmm. How has it changed?
Over the years since?
Yeah. I mean, I think it has deepened over the years.
Okay.
That would be one way that it has evolved and changed.
Yeah.
I think another way would be that I have, for me personally, learned to appreciate all aspects of you, not just the parts that I like all of the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like we challenge one another. I think we talked about this a little bit last time, like the way we challenge one another. Yeah. And I think that allowing ourselves to be challenged by each other has been helpful for our friendship and helping it grow. But I also think our date nights, what we had when our kids were little, were very few and far between because we had to pay for a babysitter and we didn't always have the funds for that.
Yeah.
But we also lived in a really small town, so going out was really hard. It was just a different season.
Yeah.
And now, if we look from then to now, our date nights are much more frequent.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And because we don't have to pay for a babysitter, so honestly, our date budget almost doubled.
It did.
Whenever we didn't have to pay for babysitters.
It did, which is nice.
Yeah. And so I think we just get to spend more time together. More uninterrupted time together.
Yeah.
And that has been really fun in recent years.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answered your question.
It did. And I would say to that point as well, like our friendship has grown because of the more intentional quality time we've had together. Because when the kids were little, like it was, I mean, bedtime, we talked about it before a couple of different times on the podcast, like bedtime was a thing.
Yeah.
Like it was a 1 to sometimes, depending on the child, 1 to 3 hour ordeal in the evening. And like one of the other was,
we did have some struggles at bedtime.
Yeah. We were finishing cleaning up the house, cleaning up the kitchen, while the other one was literally sitting, making sure that a small person was not leaving their bed.
In the doorway of the boys' room. Also making sure, remember, we had this cat. And this cat, Walker Texas Ranger cat, he went by Ranger.
Yeah.
Great cat. Loved
awesome.
Him. He was like a dog cat.
But, out of all the cats we ever had, he was one of them. But he was probably the one that I would mind having back.
He was my favorite.
Yeah.
I think I was his favorite too, so it went both ways.
Whatever. He rode with me in my scooter all the time.
Yeah. But you know, I mean, that's just a funny example, but he would taunt our boys while they were in bed and get them in trouble and then run away like he hadn't done anything.
Yep.
You can't tell me some cats don't have brains, because this one did. And so we'd have to sit and make sure he didn't come in and taunt the boys, or make sure our boys weren't talking or getting up and moving around, because they were too old for a crib. They would have climbed out of it anyhow. But they were friends and brothers, and it was just not always easy.
Yeah. All the shenanigans that happened.
So you're right. That did take time.
Yeah. But now on this side of it, now the boys are the only ones at home. And we just kind of give them a hug goodnight at like 8 or 8:30, and then their bedtime is 10 o'clock, and from the moment we tell them goodnight until they go to bed, which we just trust that they're going to bed at the right time.
Well, they do usually come tell us goodnight, even if we told them goodnight before then.
Yeah,
like when we go into our room to retreat and watch a TV show or something.
Yeah,
they'll come in there and tell us goodnight. So we know they're not just like on their own.
Sometimes
they kind of are, but
sometimes they do. Like 9 o'clock is when they're supposed to be in their rooms, which usually that happens.
Yeah.
10 o'clock is lights out.
Yeah. They like to read.
They do. And they do a great job with it. But during that time, that's when you and I are either sitting down, because we like having just routines and rhythms that we're in. And we'll sit down and we'll do, we'll play a couple of brain games at the end of the day, the Wordle and a couple other ones like that, and then just either watch a TV show together, or sometimes we'll just talk.
Yeah.
But it is, even if we're watching a TV show, just the two of us, like it's time that we're in each other's space.
Yeah.
And just hanging out and holding hands and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Well, that makes me think of something that has been crucial for our friendship over the years has been a consistent bedtime for the kids, even when it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
Still, like, they had a relatively early bedtime when they were younger, and that is because it allowed us time to decompress together and as individuals at the end of the day, which was so crucial for, like, my own sanity, but also for our relationship.
Yeah.
Because we weren't just every second of every day wasn't like corralling kids. We had a moment to breathe together.
And even when they were small and I was working, out of town for work, like I would come home and it wasn't just immediately I was going and hiding away, no matter how much I wanted to. There was a handoff.
I was going to say, I definitely did want to hide away some of those days.
There was opportunity to hand stuff off, and some days it wasn't as much as others.
Yeah.
But there was still, I knew that you needed a break, and I had a car ride home to kind of decompress a little bit.
Yeah.
Physically still very tired, but at the same time, like that gave you a break for 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then you would, we'd begin with our evening processes and
tag
stuff,
team
prepping dinner and
bedtime.
Making sure kids were not, where they weren't supposed to be. But they were usually, they were pretty content most of the time. So anyway.
So were you, this has just made me think about this.
Okay.
Whenever there was that handoff, because, I had been with the kids all day. And so I was tired in a different way than you were tired because you were tired from work. Do you feel like that handoff was I don't know how to say it, but like it was a shifting of gears, so you weren't like your tiredness from work wasn't necessarily bleeding over into like, I have to do this now, or was it like I'm tired, but this is a different kind of work and I'm okay with that?
So there was a lot of inner dialogue that was going on.
Okay.
For me, especially on the really, really long days. Like, you
did have some long days.
I would clock in at 4:30.
Yeah.
And in the morning, 4:30 a.m.
Gross.
And some days I wouldn't get off until 4 or 5. So like I'm on the shift, and then I'm in that 4 or 5 o'clock getting off of work time was before a 45-minute drive home. It was always exhausting and nerve-wracking because I was tired. On top of the traffic was insane. 2-lane highway. Anyway, but there would be days, especially when I was a little more unhealthy, emotionally and mentally, that I would just be like, oh my gosh, like I have to go home and like I'm so tired. She doesn't understand how tired I am. And then, you have that other side of the dialogue, like, well, what do you think her day's been like? Because she's at home with the kids, changing diapers, cooking food, teaching. Because you weren't just like an idle parent. You were teaching our kids.
So most days. When they were older, yeah.
I'm not saying, what I'm saying though is you weren't just like kicking your feet up and eating bonbons. You were parenting. Yeah. You were momming and you weren't like teaching them, quantum physics.
I was like, when they were 3, I wasn't like teaching them.
You weren't teaching them like quantum physics, but you were sitting down and reading with them, and you were writing and coloring and, letting them watch Dora and all that stuff.
Yeah, it was an interactive day for sure.
But it was mentally and physically exhausting for you. So it wasn't like I was just coming home to a person who was refreshed from not having to work outside the home. It was one tired bag of bones walking into a house with a more tired, in some cases, bag of bones, and just saying, let me just make sure the kids stay out of trouble while you go take a break for a few minutes. But I remember the first probably year or so of I guess Tyler, when he was a little one, like it was really, really hard for me to make that transition because I felt so sorry for myself because I was so tired. But the more I thought about it as a dad and as a husband, I'm like, this is helping her out because this is what she needs right now. And honestly, sitting on the couch reading a book with a kid, half awake, honestly, sometimes.
Yeah, I believe that.
Was a way that I could help you. And that kind of became the status quo for that. And that came to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm able to help and contribute this way. It doesn't feel like it's a huge offering, but it ended up being a moment of sanity for you. Most of the time, I think.
Yeah.
But I know there were times I would come and sit on the couch and I would just fall asleep.
That also happened. And I don't even blame you. If I had been keeping the schedule you had to keep, I would have done the same thing. And I don't think I had I didn't allow myself to really understand or empathize with you in that season either, because you said it of yourself that you were, feeling sorry for yourself or feeling selfish. And I definitely had those days too, where I was exhausted and tired, and not just those words mean the same thing, but in different ways. It was emotional, it was mental and physical, and you were feeling the same thing. And that was a point in our marriage, I think, where our friendship started to grow and we started to empathize with one another better. That would be another place of like, we needed to communicate. We needed to have empathy for one another and compassion for one another. Yeah. And we both had to grow into that.
Yeah. That wasn't one of those things that you come equipped with, like on your marriage day, on your wedding day, like, okay, here's your wedding day packet on how to spouse. And I'm like, now I look back at those times, and I mean, I'm like, I was really had a hard time understanding what it for a while what it was like for you at home with the kids.
Well, I don't think either of us was the healthiest version of ourselves.
No, we weren't
at that season, anyhow, and that didn't help.
Yeah, but I think a lot of marriages start out that way, and like I think what was good for us in that moment was like there was a push to the middle for each other. There wasn't just one person saying, I'm going to take it all and you're going to do everything for me. Yeah. It was, okay, like maybe it wasn't a conscious, like this, I need to give such and such, because we talked about equality versus equity on our last episode.
Oh, yeah, we did.
There wasn't like a conscious, like I've got to give 70% today. She's only got 30 in her. Like it was kind of it was almost intuitive from time to time. And it was just because there was that relationship that was building. And now, I think you mentioned it last time we talked, was we just kind of know some days. Like I can just look on your face and be like, oh, I need to carry a little extra today. There wasn't that then as much as there is now, but there was definitely the need back then.
Yeah.
But that's how that friendship has grown, and that's part of how has that friendship evolved, like just becoming more intuitive to one another's needs and areas of just help prop me up a little bit.
Yeah. And you're right. It doesn't happen on day one. No. I think that was kind of the original question, if I remember correctly, sort of, but like, no, it does take time and intentionality to get to deepen the friendship and to grow closer in that way.
Yeah. Well, and you're talking just now about, the daily, I would get home from work and the handoff. There's always this comment about work-life balance. There's always this comment about balance in general. And I think we'll have a podcast about this at some point with work-life rhythm versus work-life balance. But it was a daily thing for us. Like if either one of us took a day off of trying to build into and pour into that friendship, it suffered for us. And so what are some of the things that we do, small things that we do daily or weekly that help keep our connection strong? And you mentioned one a minute ago, but I want you to elaborate.
Which one did I mention?
Date.
Oh, date night? Yeah.
Date night.
Well,
Date night.
Hey, tonight's date night.
It is.
Just thought about that.
For those of you who know us, you know that date night is Wednesday.
It is.
Date night. Anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So you were asking about daily.
Yeah. What are some small things we do daily or weekly that keep our connection strong in our friendship?
Yeah. It's a good question. Processing that question now. Okay. So I think there are little things like how we serve one another, and I'm gonna say like a couple of ways for how you serve me throughout the day, which like deepens my like for you, not just my love for you.
Deepens your like.
Coffee is one of those ways. Coffee. Typically, if you're home, if you're not traveling for work, you are up, you're getting ready in the morning. Let's be real. Is far less involved than my getting ready in the morning. So getting ready.
Brush my teeth.
Yeah. You don't have to brush your hair because there is none.
And that's it.
Yeah. So yeah, he brushes his teeth and like heads out to the kitchen and, make sure the boys are up. You'll sit down and have breakfast with them sometimes while I'm getting ready. And that's sweet that you get to hang out with them. But you'll make coffee while I'm getting ready. Most mornings you'll bring me my coffee to the bathroom while I'm getting ready.
Yeah.
Also,
how was this morning's coffee? Was it too milky or was it?
It was a little too milky, but I drank it down. It wasn't.
You drank it down?
Well, I drank it down a little and then added more coffee.
You're not watering it down. You're copying
it down. It wasn't bad by any means. It was a little lighter in color than I prefer, but it was
You're going to have to give me
drinkable.
Like a color chart.
Like get a color swatch that you like hold up next to the top of. Hey, that's an idea to market.
That's true.
You could be like, this is the color of coffee I want, and for every husband everywhere,
it changes by the day though.
She can say, I need a number 3, shade number 3, and all he has to do is align it with the color. Listen, I think we're onto something here.
Definitely. We're gonna create that, and we're gonna market
trademark
it on this here fancy podcast.
Yeah, sure.
It's gonna be great.
So you bring me my coffee. It's really sweet. It's a great way you serve me. I think the other thing is you are really good at, on the day-to-day level, you kind of said this a while ago, like being intuitive and anticipating needs, but also like, I'm not the morning person in this relationship. You
for sure.
You and our youngest wake up ready to have full-blown conversations about all the things.
That's true.
Or loud music or whatever. And I need time in the morning for my brain and my body to wake up without many words. I need some coffee in that space. And most of the time you're really respectful of that. And
my fault, chat, as our youngest says.
My fault, chat. Yeah, so I think that's really super helpful. I think that the day-to-day, just talking to each other, like we both work from home, so we're around each other a lot. But honestly, that can be harder because we get in our own space. And so just taking a moment to go, like, just say hey, or stand in the kitchen for 10 minutes together and eat, and not eat at our desks.
Eating over the kitchen counter like a crazy person. I was going to say like a rabid
goblin or something.
A goblin.
I don't know.
That's good. That works on a lot of levels. Kitchen goblin.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I feel like they're just little things. Like, how are you? What makes a good friendship? Well, those are the things that make a good friendship and marriage. Also, we talk to one another.
Yeah.
We
touch
share
points throughout the day.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. And then weekly date night. Sometimes we get like a brunch date in on the weekend, plus the date night, which is always really nice.
It is very nice.
Yeah. Drives occasionally. It's like, I just need to get out of the house for a little while, especially on a weekend, like a Sunday afternoon drive or something. Like, let's just go drive some back roads. Like, let's just hang out and chat. I said this earlier, but I think us dreaming together.
Yeah.
That's
a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun, but also like it gives us common goals that we're working towards, and that matters a lot.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a dream that the other one hasn't heard before, or it's the same. Usually for me, I'm always sharing the same thing over and over and over again. But this is what I want to do. This is what I want us to have as a family.
I think we have the same.
Yeah,
I mean,
a lot of times
for both of us. That's true. But that means that's because our dreams aren't changing. That also means that we're continuing to work in the same direction together, and that's good.
Yeah, it's not two dreams that are diverging on unparalleled. Anyway, I'm trying to
diverged in a wood.
Trying to over philosophize that. So, how do we make time for friendship amid work, kids, and chaos? Because all three of those things, work, kids, and chaos, abound. So how do we make time for that?
I think we just work it all in together. I mean, we talked about this a little bit last time, but about how was it last time or the time before your sous chefedness in the kitchen? I'm
a great sous chef.
You are not a great sous chef, but you are my favorite. I stand by that.
Okay.
You actually are. You're not bad.
I'm an adequate.
You're not terrible.
I'm an adequate.
Depends on
world's okayest sous chef.
I think
I can take that. I can receive that.
We have to align on definitions of what like cubed versus diced is, and all of that.
Thin,
sometimes thin versus
sliver.
thick.
Yeah.
Anyhow, just for everyone to know, a thinly sliced bell pepper is not the width of your thumb.
I know that now.
It wasn't really the width of your thumb, but it was. I mean,
it was definitely pinky finger.
Yeah. So, size. But I mean, okay. So in the kitchen, right?
Yeah.
Like we have to make dinner. That's something we have to feed ourselves and our family every day.
Yeah.
So can we do that together? Can we hang out together in the kitchen? Yes.
Yeah.
You'll throw on some music. We'll cook together. We'll chat in between. Like that's just one way that we're incorporating together time into something that we're already doing.
Yeah.
Like we're not changing our routine.
Yeah.
We're just doing it together.
That's one of my favorite things we do together too, by the way.
Cooking?
Oh.
I like that too.
Making a mess, but it's fun to be in there talking and chatting.
It's fun. And I give you a hard time about your lack of chef ability, but honestly, it's not that bad.
It's not great, and I'm okay with
that.
The
company far outweighs any of the rest of it.
I know that I'm not the best at it, and I've accepted that. I'm trying to get better. But the purpose of that time, though, is, you could do all that stuff all by yourself, but you invite me to that space and let that be a point of connection throughout the day.
I also don't want to chop raw chicken if I can help it, and you do that really well.
Thank you.
And you get to do that while I do the stuff that I more enjoy.
The stuff that requires finesse, which is not what I do.
Yeah. Well, so that's fun. I mean, I think that's something that's already ongoing that we do. We often have a show that we're working through together, so we can binge watch stuff together, which is fun. I think just whatever it is in our day, if we're both able to break away to go pick up the boys from school or whatever, we do that together.
Yeah,
we might
nice
have a 15-minute in between pickup times after we've dropped one off when we're going to get the other. We have some just hang out time too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 15 minutes in the middle of the day or in the middle of the afternoon, but I think it pays off. Just those little moments. We already have rhythms and routines. We just figure out how we can be together during as many of those as possible.
Yeah. So, and that's the next question is, do we ever have to schedule it, or does it come naturally? As far as those things that we do to build friendships.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to answer that question myself because I think it's both and.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah,
sometimes
that's exactly what I was thinking.
Wednesday night is our date night. Almost without exception, every Wednesday
it's a
we
rhythm.
go on a date.
Yeah,
it's a rhythm.
It's a scheduled rhythm.
Yeah, but it's almost become a habit now. Our phones are
we get in the car.
This many minutes to this restaurant. We're
That's true.
Crud. But and we have our own, our usual servers that we have that will go see at the restaurants and stuff, and we've kind of built some friendships and rapport with them. But sometimes that's scheduled, but there are other times that it comes more naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, a lot of that is us in the kitchen, just rubbing elbows and just bumping into each other on purpose. You may not do it on purpose, but I do.
Oh, that's what's happening.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I just thought you were clumsy.
Well, it's an arguable statement, but
you said another both and.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
I think we do a pretty good job of scheduling. Making sure that there's some routines that are in place. But it's you have been much more sporadic when it comes to the unscheduled fun. When we go on vacation, I'm ready to get from point A to point B. Sometimes you're like, hey, slow down. I want to go do this instead. And I'm like, we were going to get there in 6.4 hours, but now it's going to take us 7.2 hours to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And
you're a beat the GPS kind of guy.
You are vacation Steph is a whole different animal than work Steph. You're a blast on vacation. Except for whenever I'm not the one.
Unless you want to get somewhere fast, and I'm like, no, let's go on an adventure.
And I want to know what the next turn looks like in 416 miles.
Trust me and the map. We'll be fine.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that those are pretty good because that's the daily. That's the in and out. That's the rhythms and the routines.
Mm-hmm.
And it does come with intentionality, but it also has things that are more organic. So when friendship feels hard, and this is like this with any friendship, whether it's your friends from school, your siblings that are friends, and even in our marriage, friendship feels hard sometimes. Sometimes it is hard to like one another, because, and typically it just comes from something small, like a bit of miscommunication. But for us, and this is a point where we're going to be a little more transparent. So are you ready for that?
I don't know.
Too bad. So
how transparent are we being?
I mean, you just be transparent. So,
all right.
The first question is: were there seasons when friendship did not come easily for the two of us? For you?
I don't know how to answer that.
You're not going to hurt my feelings.
Yeah. Well, here's what I would say. Yes and no.
Okay.
I'm trying to put this into words. So I would say I can look back, and there were some seasons when friendship was much harder, and that was when we were navigating. This was earlier on. I think in recent years we've navigated words today. are not coming easily.
It's okay. It's a hard question to decide how to answer.
So in recent years, I think that navigating hard seasons together has actually grown our friendship, and we've done that well.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I would say probably the first decade of marriage, roundabout, we did not navigate difficult seasons well together.
Yeah. I think I'd agree with that.
I think that there was a tendency for one or both of us to shut down and pull away a little bit. Instead of leaning into one another, we leaned away. I also think there were some seasons, I'm thinking back to, I had a miscarriage, and that was really hard. And so we were both grieving in our own ways. And to be completely honest, you did not know how to how to help me or what to say or what not to say. And there were certainly, I struggled with some hard feelings toward you because I felt like you should have responded in a different way.
Yeah.
But it was just, we had to go through that. And it was unfortunate and it was sad, but our friendship in that season did feel more difficult.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I think if there are any times, and this can still happen from time to time, but if either of us feels wounded by the other, that it feels like there is a gap that has to be closed, because there is, and friendship feels a little bit more distant, and we have to, but normally I do think that coming together after those times, the friendship grows stronger.
Yeah. It's the concept of pruning, I think, that comes with that. And I agree. Whenever you had the miscarriage, that was I didn't know what to do, and you didn't know how to tell me what you needed from me. And that's one of those things that you don't really know how to prepare for. No one says, when you have this situation in your life come up, this is how you handle it. Nobody tells you. And I remember I felt so bad because you were dealing with the physical side of it, but also as I learned more, there was the emotional and there was the mental too.
Yeah.
That went along with it. And that was eye-opening for me to know sometimes just shut up and listen and just lean into you and hear what you're saying and try and empathize with you rather than trying to fix things. And that has always been my bent whenever a season is difficult for us, is I try to fix stuff. And when I try fix stuff that I can't fix, I break it. Almost.
Yeah.
And bend it not in a good way. But yeah, there were some difficult seasons for us for sure. Well,
I think we both have I was just thinking about this too. Even separate from like those situations I just mentioned, but we've both been through a season or two of depression or more anxiety, and those have been, thankfully, I would say for the most part, we've offset one another in those seasons. So where you can't give as much, I'm able to lean in a little more and vice versa. Yeah. But like those can be a more challenging season when you feel like, and I know you've felt this way and I felt this way, when you feel like you're giving more in that and it goes on for a prolonged period of time, it can feel like, I think resentment can build up a little bit if we're not careful to think, well, I'm having to carry a lot of weight for a lot of time. And that makes friendship hard because there's sacrifice and that is required for friendship. Yeah. But it also doesn't always mean that it's easy or that there aren't other feelings that come around during that season of sacrifice.
Yeah. So in that time, whenever, we were dealing with some of the difficulties early on in marriage and through the course of the situation with the miscarriage and in our move back to the States and just kind of where we've been lately, what does it mean for us to fight for friendship when it feels distant? Like when we're struggling with, like, I feel like we're so far apart. What does it mean for you?
Do you mean moment? Like what is the action that comes?
Like what are the steps that you've identified and taken that have kind of helped in your opinion bring that back closer instead of being so far apart?
Yeah, I think just saying the thing out loud. Like,
okay.
I think something that I've learned over the years, and I think you appreciate, you've said as much at least, is just being able to directly communicate feelings on that, and to say like, hey, I feel like we're kind of distant right now. I don't feel like we've been ourselves. I feel like maybe you're irritated, or maybe you're just feeling distant. What is it?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just laying it all out there and being like, hey, let's just like throw down for a second and get it all out there so we can start fresh.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's a natural part of life, right?
Yeah.
Or our emotions, when we're in a relationship, things build up, and sometimes we don't say them all out loud, and sometimes we need to, within reason, I would say this, like there are things that have to be filtered and through, like, I can't just say whatever comes to mind. And if I have said that before, I've regretted it. And so just being cautious, but willing to say the thing out loud. Like just say out loud what you need to say so we can work through it.
Yeah. And something that goes along with that too is like when we feel distant and we're trying to pull back together, one of the things that I think we do really well, I think it was grandmother that your great grandmother who wrote us a note that said, "Don't let the sun go down on your just pulling scripture out." But like the point of it was, don't go to bed angry. And you hear people like, "Well, we got to take the night off," and for some people that works, right? Like that works for them to go to bed. Neither one of us can do that.
Yeah.
Like we just know
if it's like
festering.
Yeah, if there's something festering and we need to get it out. Now I will say, was it like 2 nights ago or something? It's funny that you're saying this now, because I was thinking about it.
That's where discernment comes from, right?
Yeah, I was just like annoyed. It was late, and I don't know why. I was annoyed, and you like said something weird, and I was like, "Why'd you say that?" I don't know.
Yeah.
And you kind of were like, "Are you ready to pray and go to bed?" And I was like, "Yes." And we did. Even though I was still annoyed, but I wasn't annoyed at you. I was just in a really irritable mood. I needed to go to sleep. And we both knew that. We weren't pushing, like shoving something under the rug to not be addressed. There was nothing to address other than my mood, which needed sleep.
Yeah.
So that's different.
Yeah.
Like we're not going to sit. If we would have tried to hash that out, I probably would have just gotten annoyed at something else, and it would have turned into something it didn't need to be.
It would have been one of those famous 3 a.m.
That would have been horrid.
Bits of what we call intense fellowship, where we're trying to figure out what is wrong with the other. That. Yeah.
But if it's something like if I've hurt you or you've hurt me, and we really do need to get that out there and talk through that, we will stay up and work through that, because for us, we both need the peace that comes with going to sleep with a clear conscience, I guess, but also knowing that our relationship is righted.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I remember distinctly there were nights that we were up at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, still just griping at each other. And like, but it was because if we had tried to go to sleep then, this is early on in marriage.
I was going to say, we both were very prideful.
But if we had gone to bed then, we wouldn't have slept. And we'd have been even worse off the next day. So let's and I think we've always just kind of had the mentality of like, let's get it figured out.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, and this is not a self-deprecating comment. A lot of times it comes back to, I needed to hear from your perspective and offer an apology. And I've been slow to apologize throughout the course of our marriage. And I'm still learning that, like, sometimes my knee jerk doesn't need to be defense mode and be ready to stand up for what I did or didn't do, but instead to hear what you're saying and hear you truly, that what I had done, intentional or not, was hurtful or was not helpful.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, if you're listening to this and you're struggling with marriage and not getting along, listen to me when I say just hear what she's saying, and listen to that, and don't try and stick up for yourself right away. And I'll just leave that there for that. But that for us, especially the last several months, like if there's been a discussion that we've had, it's been, I wasn't listening to what you were saying. And it sucks to have to say that out loud, because I don't want to think I'm not listening. But again, there's that pride thing that happened. And that's what pushes us apart. But coming back for both of us to be in a space where we can speak honestly and speak directly has kind of helped bring us back together in this thing. So, yeah. Yeah.
But I think you're right, though. It takes both parties being willing to listen and hear the other out. And, you know, pride has always been more of an issue for me. And so learning to go, is it going to who is it really hurting if I'm prideful in this moment? I'm hurting myself and you and us. It's not helping anything. Like there is nothing good that comes out of that. And I think for you and I both being able to take a humble approach and kind of start to listen a little better. That goes both ways. That's not just you, it's me too.
Yeah. Humble ain't easy.
No.
If it was, I'd do it all the time. So that part of the conversation for us is one that, it a lot of times our disagreements come from something small and dumb, like this, one of the last ones we just had, and I won't dwell on this too long, but it came because I was folding something from the dryer that needed to go back through the dryer because it had been in the dryer cold, and I was annoyed because I knew you were going to want me to run it through the dryer again. I don't want to go run it through the dryer again. And I was telling you, I'm going to lay it flat. It'll be fine.
Stupid pair of pants.
And you were like, no, that material's not going to do that. I'm like, hey, well, it's fine. You're not listening. I'm listening. I'm not. Anyway, so like all of that happened because I was not willing to slow down and hear what you were saying. And men, don't do that. So quiet, listen.
Well, and it's also really easy in those moments to let outside circumstances or situations to bleed into that. And I this makes me think of something that we both adopted saying many years ago. And sometimes we just need to stop in the moment and actually say, hey, I'm on your team.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like I am not your enemy. You are not my enemy. We are on the same team. We're working towards the same goal. Yeah. We need to take a moment and remember that neither of us is against the other, and we need to be teammates again. Yeah. And that has been really helpful most of the time when one of us can just stop and say, hey, I'm on your team. Especially like, I know for me, sometimes my tone can get me in trouble, and I don't mean to. It's just, I don't. Here's the deal. We're from, this is a side tangent.
Okay.
We live in Texas.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who in the South are very syrupy and sweet in everything that they say. I don't have a sweet and syrupy voice all the time. And if I'm just speaking like frankly with somebody, I'm just going to speak. I'm not going to try and be like, well, I need to sound more friendly today. And so I don't always do that. And sometimes that gets me in trouble because I'm just speaking.
Yeah.
To be honest, men can get away with that and women can't in a lot of context. And I'll leave that there. That is what it is.
Yeah.
But in those moments when I realize I think I'm coming across in a way that I'm not meaning to, that's when I'll stop and say, before it even gets to an argument, and say, hey, I need you to know I'm on your team. And I don't think I sound like I think we're on the same team right now, but we are. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just sharing my thoughts.
Yeah.
And that has been, I think, a big deal for both of us to be able to step back and say, hey, I'm on your team.
Yeah.
We're together on everything. And it doesn't change that.
Yeah. And that's been really helpful with our kids too. Especially our youngest.
That's true. You have started saying that.
Letting them know like, hey, the thing that you did was kind of dumb, but like, I'm on your team. I'm not coming after you. Like, let's talk through this.
Like, we're cheering you on. We want you to win and succeed. And we're here to support. Yeah.
Yeah. So that portion I knew was going to be a little bit uncomfy.
No, it's okay.
So what do we do though to keep our friendship playful and growing? Like what do we do? Like how do we keep fun alive? Let's say that. How do we keep fun alive? How do we not take ourselves too seriously?
That's another good question.
Yeah.
One that comes to mind immediately, and you mentioned this earlier, is a little bit of friendly competition here and there.
Yes.
And so one of those is we do the New York Times word games in the evenings, and there's a little bit of friendly competition who can get connections with the least amount of mistakes, or who can get, Wordle in the least tries, the mini crossword, who can do it the fastest. Took away from us, by the way. I know, rude. I'm so mad about that still. We have to go to the Washington Post, which is inferior to the New York Times mini crossword, if I may say.
I don't remember the New York Times one anymore. So.
It's been so long.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's one way. And also just like, I think, obviously date night, that I keep coming back to that. It's just been so good for us to just hang out and have fun together. Board games, like with the kids.
Oh my goodness!
Like even if we're with the kids doing that, like that still is good for our friendship because we're doing something as a family and we're having fun and there's a little friendly competition going on. And
I don't know about friendly. Well, there's definitely some smack talking going on.
Yeah.
Playing Mario Kart with the kids.
Oh, that's really fun.
We have an old Nintendo 64.
That's not friendly competition. No, that's just straight up competition.
There's zero friendliness going. Lots of smack talk because especially the youngest one thinks he can smoke us.
We've been playing Mario Kart for
Don't say the number of years. Don't.
At least twice his lifetime.
Yeah, probably. However long ago 1997 was.
Is that when it came out?
I think that's when the Nintendo 64
was I that old? I was 12 in 97. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, it's been a while. I'm an expert at it. I don't know why they think they can beat me. The only people who can beat us are fellow millennials. So, this one, we may not have anything for this one, but what's something new that we've learned about each other recently? What is something new about me that you've discovered?
That I've discovered?
That you've learned recently? I mean, you know pretty much everything about me.
I know a lot about you. I feel like I know you pretty well.
Yeah. Is there some? Okay, let me reframe this. Is there something that has happened in the last year or so that kind of caught you off guard?
In a good way or bad way?
In a good way. Like you learned about me, like, oh, okay.
Like, oh, huh. You've said this over the years a couple of times, but I think in the last year you kind of talked about it a little bit more. Your desire to do more creatively.
Yeah.
Like write songs or paint or, you you've thought back and shared about how in your childhood you kind of did more of that and how you had a desire to. So, I mean, that's been kind of fun to hear you talk about your desires to do that. I don't know if that would be new necessarily. It's just something that came to mind when you said that. But, well, I was going to say that you like hummus, but you didn't like it before and you recently started liking it.
Yeah.
So that's a shift for you.
Yeah. Hummus,
wasn't like something new I learned.
Yeah. Now it's great.
Yeah. I can't, I mean,
I
feel like there's got to be something because I feel like, but I think we both grow and change and we see it as it happens. Yeah. And so it's not necessarily like a revelation about who you are. It's like I get a front row seat to who you're becoming.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that is fun because sometimes I see things before you see them. And same for me. I would think sometimes you see something in me before I really catch on and you're probably going, "Oh yeah, I saw that. I knew that."
Yeah.
And took you long enough to learn that about yourself, but okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. You think that's accurate? Or
I think so. I think that's kind of a trap question, though, because
presumptive?
I think it's a trap question, but because it's one that I could give you the example of 15 years into our marriage, I didn't realize you didn't like bananas, and 2 months ago, I found out you didn't like peanut butter that I either had forgotten or you just didn't tell me. But that's that's so
that
shallow.
I don't like it. Yeah.
But it is. You're right. We do have a front row seat to how each other is growing and learning different things, and so.
Yeah, I think maybe if anything, sometimes we get to tell stories from our childhood or our family with each other, like in our conversations. And I'll be like, "Have I ever told you this before?" And you'll say, "No, you haven't." And then I get to share a story for the first time with you. I think that would be something.
I think that's a great shift to how to respond to that. Yeah.
Okay. And it's the same. I mean, it goes both ways. And we just, even after 20 years, sometimes something will come up and I'm like, I don't guess I ever told you about that. Yeah. Or did I ever tell you about this family member and what they used to do? Or Well,
because it feels so known to us and insignificant that to the other, it's like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So 20 years and we still are unraveling pieces of our stories with each other that we didn't realize we hadn't said before out loud.
Sometimes you're like, oh, that explains a lot. So, with our kids, in our friendship and our marriage, do you feel like that they see that?
I think so.
I do too. Like, they have to. First of all, they know not to come at us and try and change both of our minds at the same time because they know that we talk constantly.
And we've told them,
yeah,
we are united as parents, and we will always communicate on these things.
Yeah.
And so they can't go around me to get to you or whatever. I mean, they've tried. They've certainly tried.
I think what's funny though, like, in the caricature of marriage, a lot of times you have, like, dad's the strict one and mom is the easy one to go talk to. I think in our marriage, like,
they come to you.
I've been more the one that's been like, I don't care. And it's not that you're strict. It's just like you've already made a decision on it, and they're like, let's go shoot our shot with dad and see what he says. And most of the time I was like, yeah, whatever, man. And you're like, I told them not to do that. And I'm like,
well, but we have, honestly, like, there have been a few situations like that in recent years, and we've had to together say, okay, if they say something or ask something, we can just default to, like, well, let me check with mom and make sure that like we're on the same page here. And that's literally what we'll say is like, hey, let me check with dad and make sure we're on the same page before I give you a solid answer. If it's something of consequence, even if it's just like them going to a friend's house or whatever, I want to make sure. And you do too now, because we have been caught off guard.
Yeah, very much so.
And they weren't, I don't think they were trying to pit us against each other.
They weren't devious. They weren't like I was as a kid playing mom against dad. Like it was, what'd your mom say? But I don't think we've ever really said that. Like, I'll say, have you talked to mom about that? And what'd she say? Well, let me go talk to her. It's kind of a trust but verify situation for us with them. But yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. But I do think they see our friendship. I mean, they even just hearkening back to what we were saying to a moment ago, like playing board games together with them, like they see the friendship side of us in those fun moments together, or road trips, like vacation time. Like they get to see us hanging out and enjoying each other's company. And if, like, on road trips, we're in the front seat, we will usually, if we're not listening to music or something, we'll be having a conversation. The kids usually have, like, the whole time. And it's things like we're dreaming together, we're planning, what we want to do or whatever. And the kids, even if they have, like, earbuds in or they're reading or whatever, they know, and they know we enjoy talking to each other, and that's an important part of our relationship.
Yeah. I think it's good. So with that, like, I do want our kids to always know that, like, we're on the same team. You and I are on the same team. We're together, that we love each other, and we actually like each other. Because they do have friends whose parents don't have that. But how does that relationship, how does that friendship make us better parents for our kids?
I think it just kind of all plays in together. I mean, if we're healthy from the top down, they're going to benefit from that, and they're going to reflect that. And there have certainly been times when there's been more tension between us, and they feel it, and I can see that. I was thinking back to when they were really little. I mean, this was probably over a decade ago, definitely over a decade. And I remember us kind of having, like, a disagreement in the car. And I remember one of the kids later saying, "Are y'all going to get a divorce?" And it broke my heart. But they were a couple of years into school, and they had started having friends who had parents who were no longer together. They were hearing about it, and it was fresh on their mind. And our disagreement also bred some insecurity in that moment, because they just didn't have any context for it until right before that time, and it made them scared. But on the flip side of that, I will say this for our kids. I think that our friendship and the way that we handle disagreements in front of them from time to time hopefully models what it looks like to disagree and still love somebody and resolve that and move on. Now, we intentionally we don't go hide away every time we disagree and battle it out. We do let them see us disagree on minor issues, not major things, because we know that we can come back together after a few minutes of discussion and be like, okay, well, I love you, and we're moving on. And I want them to see that, because what I don't want is for them to get into a marriage one day and say, well, I never saw my parents fight, and suddenly I'm not getting along with my spouse. That must mean this isn't supposed to be where this isn't working out. Well, no, every married couple disagrees. What you do with it is what matters. And that's what I hope to model to them.
Yeah. And I always want them to to want to know that marriage is worth fighting for. And at least in the context that we've been in, you do have the exceptions where there are abusive relationships or
that's important
like that. But there's not been that for us. There's not abuse on either way. I mean, unless you count Mario Kart as abuse, sometimes, or Monopoly. But I'm talking about like real abuse type things. Yeah. But like there's something to be said about the stability of a home with a mom and dad for the kids. Right? The kids see that stability, and that's one of the things that we always want to offer our kids is not just for the sake of getting along, but for the sake of like, this is a real friendship. Let's figure it out. Yeah. And that's huge for them, I think. And there's not that feeling of chaos at home.
Yeah. Now I just want to like note here that there are some homes where maybe one parent wishes that it weren't so chaotic and they don't have control over it because there's a non-participating spouse in terms of like getting along and seeking, a healthy relationship. Yeah. Or maybe there is a situation where there's a single parent home, and I believe that those parents who want to make a difference for their kids and the way their kids view relationships still have opportunity to do that outside of the marriage relationship, to model friendship and to teach in those moments. So I just want to say that doesn't mean that a 2-parent household where there's a healthy marriage is the only way you're going to have healthy kids. Yeah. I don't think you were saying that. No, I just felt like I wanted to say that out loud. Yeah. Because I know people who've encountered any or all of those types of situations I just mentioned, and there's a burden on the parent who is seeking to have a healthy home, and they don't always have the resources or the partner to help them in those ways. Yeah,
I didn't want to say anything. It was all encompassing, but
I don't think you did. I felt like that was really important to say.
Yeah, fair enough. So friendship and marriage, it's worth fighting for. Like I really do think it's worth fighting for. It's not just a catchy catchphrase, but like it's one of those things that like for us it's a daily effort. And the moment we start just taking it easy and not fighting for that friendship, I don't think it has quite the same impact that fighting for that marriage, that friendship does.
Yeah, it doesn't happen by accident.
Yeah, it's a process, and it's like sanctification when we're talking about that, right? It's becoming holy, and I'm going to cut that part right there. Let me go back. So let's jump into So at the end of the day, for us, fighting for friendship in our marriage, that's something that we do intentionally. Sometimes it's not as intentional because we do want to have the relationship. We don't like frustrating the other one, but we do want to build each other up and encourage each other. And there's never an intentional desire to separate relationship. It's always, for us anyway, it's always to try and to lean into that, and that's a learned thing. That's not just an accidental thing.
Yeah, exactly. Friendship and marriage is not accidental. Yeah. And it's too easy to just become roommates or just go through life focusing on just the kids and not prioritizing your relationship. Yeah. I agree.
No matter what Hollywood says, it's hard to be married.
Yeah, it's not easy. But here's what I would say. I think it gets easier with time, though, because those rhythms and those routines become second nature, and I don't have to think about it as much. Yeah. Because I desire it, so I seek you out during the day to talk to you or hang out with you. Yeah. And it's not like I'm like, oh, I have to make myself go hang out with my husband so our friendship grows. It's like, no, I want that because we are friends, and I seek time with the people I care about, and you are my best friend. So
you're my best friend.
A lot of time with you.
I do too. That's fun. So let's kind of close this thing up. I think we're about done. I think we'll kick this thing down the road. But if you're listening and your marriage feels more like work than friendship, there's hope for sure. So start small, laugh together, and go for a walk.
Laugh together.
Ask each other questions.
Ooh, I did not say that earlier. Walking.
That's something we do with walking.
Is when the weather is nice, when it's not 100,000 degrees in Texas.
17 days a year in Texas.
We go for walks after dinner together, and those are like the best times of like decompression, hanging out, and it's free. Yeah, it is free. So do that. Go for a walk. With that friendship part of it, though, we've learned
in this 20 years that friendship is not just a phase of marriage. It's a foundation.
Ooh, that's good. Preach.
So anyway, love to hear how you guys invest and nurture friendship in your relationship and your marriages. Next episode is going to be a lot of fun. It may be one where...
What's our next episode?
I'm about to tell you.
Oh.
It may be one where you come up with the questions, but the topic is this: help, I'm married to an extrovert, but I'm an introvert. So this is going to be fun. I'm curious to see how that goes because I am the extrovert in the family. I had somebody tell me this week that I am an extrovert, but I can throttle it back.
That's pretty
So I feel like that was challenge accepted. Anyway, so thanks for joining us. We're talking about fighting for friendship and marriage. You guys have a great day.
Bye, y'all.
And we're done. To the Not There Yet podcast. Thank you so much for joining us again today. This is a place that we're all learning, laughing, and figuring it out as we go because we're not there yet. If this episode helped you to fight for friendship in your own marriage, we'd really love to hear about it from you. So shoot us an email at thenotthereYetpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook and comment on there at the Not There Yet podcast Facebook page. Until next time, you guys have a great day. Thanks.